Welcome to the Did You See That Sports Podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to Cleveland sports and those Did You See That moments that you text your buddies about. I'm Colton. This is Ryan. Let's dive right into it. Yeah, well,
all right.
Yeah, go for it, Ryan. Welcome in, guys.
Kick us off. Yeah, well, welcome in, welcome back. Appreciate everybody joining us. It's been about a week or so now, but big shout out to everybody that hopped on and checked us out on YouTube the past week, and also checked us out on Spotify. You can find us on either one of those places. Joining you this week, and we brought Kevin with us. Kevin was able to go to the OSU game this past weekend, so we figured he'd give us some insight. So, Kevin, welcome in, and why don't you start us off with what did you see that? What was your did you see that moment this week?
So for the did you see that, by the way, hello everybody.
Hello.
Did you see that was at the Ohio State Notre Dame game this weekend during the halftime show. Obviously the Ohio State band is known to put on a good performance, and I don't know if people caught it, but they should check it out if they can. They actually integrated drones into their routine this weekend, and they did things from just spelling out the OHIO for the crowd to chant, a Buckeye helmet with the helmet stickers. It just started out with a trumpet, and you could see the music notes floating away from the trumpet.
Jeez.
So it's
That's crazy.
Pretty awesome. Obviously, a pretty limited time base of when they can do it, because it has to be a game where it's dark enough during their performance to use them. And then I think to top it all off was when they lined them up and then lit them up to do Script Ohio as they lit up to match the band.
I have a couple of questions. That sounds amazing, but two, I have some questions about the logistics. So, are you looking straight up or are you looking out?
So they were set up straight above the video board, the big scoreboard with the video. So the band's on the field, that's going on. I mean, one thing that obviously poses is, are you watching the band or are you watching the drones? You were watching the drones if you had the right.
Right, exactly. They're like, the band's been around forever, but look at, there's literal floating things being floated in the sky.
They're known for the way they move around and do different things that are movement, but that was definitely next level to integrate that. It was something different that I hadn't seen.
Well, I'm glad the Ohio State tax dollars getting put to good use there with all the drone coverage.
Ryan's a salty man, Mr. Michigan over there. But we do have nice things. They give teams that are good at football all the nice things, is what I heard.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, believe me, we can talk about that all you want. Okay, let's talk about on the field, because that is pretty cool. And if you haven't checked that out, it sounds like it was pretty amazing. I just want all the robot overlords to know that before they take over. I'm on your side. So. Okay, so let's talk about Big Ten. So Big Ten, we've got some expansion coming soon, with a couple schools hopping in. Where do you guys kind of see that ending? Are we done with the expansion? Do you see a couple more teams joining? And what's that do for college football overall?
I think that with the expansion question, for as far as the Big Ten is concerned, I think they're in more of a wait-and-see approach at this point. It seems like they've expanded to the point that they want to, and from here on out, it's a waiting game on Notre Dame. But I think it benefits both parties to not do it at this moment. At least it sounds like it as far as the contracts are concerned. And it's one of those things where the longer you wait out, the more enticing the offer may become to join up at some point. And if you're getting games like we just got this past weekend, why would Notre Dame need to join the Big Ten from their perspective? They're going to be in prime time a ton, playing a bunch of big teams every single year, and losing to those big teams every single year. It's really sad on their part, but they don't have to join the Big Ten to do it. What do you think, Kevin? You got to see him live.
I think the point that you make about the waiting for Notre Dame, definitely that's where they're at. And if they're going to look for expansion, you can look at what they've already done. The only reason that they're expanding is they're looking for new markets, and they went into the DC area. They went in, and they went into Maryland. I kind of got the central with Nebraska. That was kind of a more nostalgia, I think, kind of pulling them and the weight they hold in that area. Not so much now with kind of a jilted fan base, but then they're going into California. So I think, in my opinion, other than Notre Dame, they're going to look for somebody in probably Texas, which I don't know what schools are really potentially noteworthy to them up for grabs, or Florida, which there are maybe a few up in there. Other than that, Clemson's the only team that comes to mind that they might try to target.
Yeah, so this is where I'm at. So if you count USC and UCLA, that puts them at 16, right? So I think they get to 20. I think that's the number they shoot for. The tricky thing with the Big Ten, and I mean, obviously anything can change as you get into it, but they've been on record saying that they were only going to accept AAU schools. And there aren't a lot of those out there. There's only 4 in the ACC, but every Pac-12 school is AAU. So I think that's where we see it. So you hold down Notre Dame, you think that's probably school 17, and that leaves you Oregon, California, Arizona, just to try to keep some of those Pac-12 rivalries. And then I see that going to a 20-team 4 division, West Coast. You probably call it Midwest. You probably call it North, and you call it East, something like that. Try and keep some rivalries together, but expand. And the end game for me, I think, is that you see the Big Ten go to 20 teams plus, and you see the SEC go to 20 teams plus. And at the end of the day, I end up seeing the NCAA going away and them just creating a football league because they don't need the NCAA any longer. They can put a commissioner in place that actually will have teeth, that can hold people in place and get this NIL to actually stick and have some real rules around it. And I think that they would be able to generate even more money than they do now. I think the sticking point is just that the leagues make so much money off their regional TV deals. It would take a lot for them to all group up and say, okay, how are we going to share this pot? What does it look like? So I think it's down the line, but I think that's where we end.
I think your expansion plan is not too far off. I saw a Brett McMurphy tweet earlier. It was actually about a week ago, and I pulled it up. It looks like what he was saying is they were targeting expansion of 5 more teams, which would put us pretty close to the 20 that you're talking about. And he had Notre Dame, Oregon, Washington as 2 Pac-12 schools with Notre Dame, and then 2 more teams, Cal and Stanford. And the 2 more. So that's your 5. You get Notre Dame, Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford, and you say, hey, we're adding all of you at the same time. It gives you your West Coast like you're talking about, and you can go West, Central, East, and have a whole pile of things. But with that, I think this is something you have to kind of consider as well. We have the college football playoff expansion. I know we wanted to talk about that too. What that seems to be looking at least as far as what is proposed, is moving to 12 teams, right? Is that what we're looking at? From those 12 teams, it says the top 4 would be from the winners of their conference. So those guys would get buys. Now, if the conferences end up essentially dissolving or having 2 that are way more powerful than any others, what do you think that does, and does that impact the college football playoff expansion?
So they've actually made it a point that it's 6 conferences to kind of entice also those lower 5 to keep with it. Everybody outside of the Big 5 or whatever. So I think going back to our Big Ten expansion, that is less of an incentive for these other teams to jump, because and here's one, Notre Dame, if they know that there's 12 teams, and if they finish in the top 12, they're going to be in. Now, the only caveat to that is there's a nuance where they would never get one of those buys as a conference champion. So they would always have a tougher road to a national championship. But I think for them, if it keeps their independence, they're going to stand pat on that. So as far as the expansion goes, I think it's definitely going to slow down what we're looking for conference expansion, because what's the motivation for, say, a Clemson to try to jump to one of the bigger conferences, SEC or Big Ten, when if they win, the ACC, which is going to happen, a large majority of the time,
Yeah, they can
or
compete
they
every
finish in the top 12, they're probably in regardless. And you have, what's the Pac-12 going to look like? USC
The
and
Pac-6.
UCLA league.
year. Yeah, it's
So
a
you've
12-pack
got a
half
conference.
drink.
Now, it's not guaranteed for them, as they found out, with a 4-team. But then you're going to end up with, the American and Conference USA. Those have been kind of the non-Power 5 that have really kind of been the ones that have had more of a draw and more of an argument. So, I mean, Pac-12 versus them, I think they still got enough squads, and they're going to draw some more. So we'll see where it goes, but I think these other teams are going to need a little more push to expand because of what the college football playoff expansion is going to do for them.
And talking about push, I think that's what it's going to take. So you look at Notre Dame. When does NBC go to them and say, we're not signing you? We're not putting every single one of your games on because you're not drawing the numbers anymore? That would be the motivation for them to say, okay, we're not going to get this guaranteed TV money from NBC. Let's look at another league. And same thing with Clemson. Hey, if the SEC and the Big Ten group to join their own football league and they're not going to use the NCAA anymore, well, what's it matter if they stay in the NCAA if there's no one to play against and there's no notoriety, because the big league college football teams are in this different league altogether. So I think that would be the shoe to drop, would be, are they going to create their own league, and does NBC take Notre Dame's money away from them? Those would be the two big changes that I see happening that would push it to that next level. So do you guys think that the Super Leagues kill college tradition? Do you think it kills the rivalry and the fun of going to college games?
Yeah.
I think it's still football, but there's going to be a different version of it to me.
Yeah.
I think we've already seen a delusion,
Exactly.
It's diluted with the big bowl games, right? The Rose Bowl isn't necessarily the Rose Bowl anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The Sugar Bowl, like there's but it's shifted, and it still has value, and people like the system more than they did, the previous. Do they like that the bowl games maybe aren't as, I'm trying to think of the right word, just as big of a deal because of these two conferences, but I think it evolves, and I think people have been clamoring for more, so I think people are going to adjust to it. Now, to the Super Conference thing, I don't know if that's in the cards necessarily now. It's going to be delayed for certain because, with the expansion, the SEC is already looking at it as, well, we're going to get 4 teams in every year minimum, right? So their revenue is going to keep going up anyway with the expansion. So why would they want to go into an agreement just with the Big Ten to do this? Because they might lose what's kind of being established as a pretty good deal for them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a lot of good points about the college football playoff expansion side. I think that the conference realignment that's happening right now is in some ways overstated, in some ways understated. I think it's a lot of headlines right now, and they're saying, hey, this person's joining, these people are leaving. But to Ryan's overall point, I think there's some bigger game being played here where it's not just schools, and you don't need the NCAA as necessarily for like all these contracts that are going to be coming out for media rights. In some ways, it's surpassed a long time ago a school sport. Like, to speak to the tradition and the old bowl games and all of that, it hasn't been that for a long time, probably since before I was even a college football fan. As a kid, it probably started to change off of that. When the media rights deals started hitting these universities, it became a business. It's always been a business. And now in the last year, we get the NIL. And I think that more than ever, Ryan's point that it may be essentially a feeder league to the NFL, is and it's in play. It's already kind of in play right now.
Yeah, just because Ohio State's been paying their players forever doesn't mean that everybody's been doing it. It hasn't been NIL forever.
No, the universities are raking in the
Oh,
cash.
okay.
Those
I misheard
guys.
you. Okay, yeah, I
And
got you, I got
tattoos. Those,
Okay, here's
those
my-
don't
here's-
count.
And
Here's my question.
it wasn't the university paying the players; it was the Big Ten giving them rings and gold pants for beating Michigan that they were then selling. So they earned those things and then sold them on their own accord. Let's just get
sure.
that.
That
straight.
makes
It was
Capitalism.
It was
on the
garage
backs of
sale
beating
style,
Michigan.
Ryan.
Capitalism, got it. Okay, so I'm gonna hand you 2 tickets to your favorite college football game versus their rival, or your favorite NFL team versus their rival. Which ones are you taking?
I'm taking the one that I'm taking you to this year.
Oh,
So you're doing college.
Oh yeah,
I'm doing
100%.
college also. But it's for a
Me
selfish
too.
reason. Here's my selfish reason. I want to watch the NFL game on my couch. There's a lot more NFL games on that I'd like to watch right along with it. And the college football game, I would much rather be all in on my OSU Michigan game right in the stadium and say F the rest of the weekend for the Saturday games. I don't care. I'm most likely watching a top 5 matchup anyway. And in the NFL, it's like I want to see everybody. I want to channel surf. And at 4:30 there's another round, and at the evening there's another round. That's college for me.
I agree. One last note before we move into some NFL news. So if the SEC would expand, if they went to 20, here's some of the teams I got for them. So I've got FSU, Clemson, Miami. I think those are the 3 guarantees. And then that leaves you Louisville, Baylor, Houston. Which one of those 3 would you rather have as the 20th team?
That just sounds like a Chili's half-price appetizer of teams. You just throw that in.
Hey man, you
scraps.
had FSU, Clemson, and Miami. That's a pretty amazing league. Shake your head no.
It's got a
wrong.
bunch of names. I mean, you could throw the
Yeah.
names around, but they haven't been super, super competitive in a minute. The Louisville
They're
team.
getting new coaches. Yeah, Louisville.
Yeah. I mean, they're just filling
Okay.
out.
I mean,
It's out there.
I say Louisville fits more because you have a natural rivalry with Kentucky, so you already
That'd be
are
fun.
bringing something to the table with it, and it makes sense. Geographically, they also seem pretty well set on their kind of geographical area. They're not trying to go too far west. Give us Texas around, up to Kentucky, and don't go too far into the middle. They
Just
they
carve it
reached
out.
on Missouri and they're regretting it.
Okay, so we're moving into NFL. This is my did you see that? So for our Spotify listeners, do me a favor. If you're not on Underdog, get on Underdog and go to your over-unders, and you need to pull up this picture that Colton is going to insert into our video.
Right here.
So every single player's prop has their football picture in it, except for Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow is rocking his black leather jacket, sunglasses, turtleneck pose
Joe
from when
Smooth.
he walked into the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure. So I caught it out of the corner of my eye the other day when I was scrolling through. And, I mean, it's just amazing and wonderful and makes you want to hit the over. But just make sure you check that out, because that's my did you see that as we kind of get in the NFL stuff. So did you all catch that when I sent it out to you?
I got a good laugh out of it. That was
It's his whole persona, and it's like they're like, we're gonna leave this out here because it's too good not to have.
Yeah, nobody else. Everybody else has the same standard photo just going around except for old Joe Burr.
it's a perfect guy
they
to
need
do
to
it.
step their game up.
Yeah.
They need to step their game up because obviously he gave them that, and they're like, there's no better than this. So somebody else needs to match it. Bring that energy.
All right, so the topic I wanted to talk about was NFL most surprising start. So it's kickoff day. It's Thursday night. We're taping this. It's halftime right now of the game. It's 10-10. I wanted to talk about surprising starts. So this could be a team you think is going to start hot. This could be a team that is going to just fall off a cliff to begin the season. This could be a player that's going to break out, or somebody that's just going to bite the dust. So I'd love to hear what you guys thought about those pieces. So, Kevin, if you want to kick off, then Colton, you want to run down a couple of your teams, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I'll let you pick. Do you want one of my cold or one of my hot first?
I like it hot.
All right. So this one is definitely out on a whim, but I'm going with Carolina as a hot start to surprise. If you look at it, they've got 4 out of 5 at home to start, and some of the teams that they're playing, pretty good shot, especially if I'm expecting a healthy CMC out of the gate, which is going to severely boost anything that they're doing. I think it's just going to potentially lead to maybe 4-1, 3-2 at the worst. I see him out the gate.
All right,
That's
I like that one. Colton, what do you got?
That's an annoying one. Thanks, man. Thanks for hopping in and jumping on my pick. So that was one of them. But I have a backup. I also really like the start for the Chargers. I think they're going to come out the gate. They're going to have to face a Chiefs team. Actually, they're going to have to face a Raiders team and then a Chiefs team. And I think if they come out hot, they can beat both of those teams early in a surprising move. If they roll out that way, they're going to go on a roll. I went all the way up to the 8 games because after that, they go Jags, Texans, Browns, Broncos, Seahawks, Falcons, all the way up to the 49ers. So that 8-week is going to be another scary one. But I could very well see a 6-2, 7-1 in there for the first 8 weeks.
Okay, all right. I got one that Colton's going to hate. So give me the Eagles starting out 5-0 and after 9 games being 8-1.
I'm gonna need some backing on the schedule here because they're not one I have on my list here.
All right, so the Eagles is
Lions, Vikings, Commanders, Jags, Cards. That's 5-0, my man.
So you're not going to believe this, but the Eagles were one of my cold picks for starting. I thought they could very well start 2-3.
To who are they losing to in that group?
I think
the Vikings.
I think they could lose week 1 to the Lions. I think they lose to the Vikings.
Lord, get off Hard Knocks.
I think they beat the Commanders, and then I think they beat the Jaguars, and I think they lose to the Cardinals. I think they're 2-3 at the 5-game mark, and I don't believe they're a good team. Now, I'm going to be wrong, possibly, and it might be bad.
One of us is going to be wrong.
One of us is definitely going to be very wrong, and I'm like firmly misunderstanding why everyone has put them in the Super Bowl already. I guess it could be there, but it's just not there yet.
I don't have them on either of my lists, and part of that is I have the Vikings on my list, and part of that's their game against Philly.
Heck yeah.
I think, they got a lot. Other Green Bay's kind of iffy, but then we got Philly, Detroit, New Orleans, Chicago. The Vikings could very easily start 5-0 in there, especially with Aaron Rodgers breaking in a new receiver core and his number 1 presumed into the season. Maybe not making the week 1 start, it looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
Are you muted?
We're going to keep track of what we're doing. No big deal. We've got a prediction board up. We'll see how it rolls out, but I'm confident in my Eagles hot start pick.
Okay.
So, all right. What about cold starts? What about teams that are going to bite the dust?
I have an icy cold one, and this is my last one that I have on my list, but I can shoot from the hip here on out. I have the Miami Dolphins, and I have them starting at least 0-4, if not 0-6 plus. They have a rough schedule. I don't think they're going to be a bad team, but there's a lot of shifting around that happened to this team. New head coach, a bunch of new pieces, and a Tua that we've never seen do anything. So I think we're going to have a lot of beat up on this team early. They start with the Pats. If they do win in the first 5 weeks, or 4 weeks at least, I think it might be that game. They might win the very first game, but they're going to lose to the Ravens, they're going to lose to the Bills, they're going to lose to the Bengals, and then they're going to go into the New York Jets, and we'll see, I guess, what that team is by that point, right? But if they turn out to something, that's going to be the first game they can be truly competitive in if they're the team I think they are.
I had them on my chilly list. I didn't want to put them in the cold list, but I also had them at 1-5 as a surprising start.
Nice.
All right, Kevin, who's your cold team?
So I'll go with this one, and it's going to work on tonight just because of their schedule coming out the gate. I have the Bills as a potential cold start. Obviously, they're at the Rams tonight. Then they got Titans, at Miami, at Ravens. So 3 of 4 on the road. Some pretty good ones there. Obviously, Miami's on your cold. I think it's going to be a potentially surprising team on my list because we all know what Waddle was able to do. Tyreek Hill's not going to make him any worse, and Tyreek Hill's still going to be able to do stuff. Obviously, you're saying 2 is the big question mark, right? And then they also have KC and maybe Pittsburgh following that. Pittsburgh, not so much. KC, so I mean, we're talking 6 games out, a pretty rough start. They get through that good, then let's pencil them in for the AFC Championship, but it could be a surprising cold start for them just based on a gauntlet kind of to start the season.
Hey, that takes balls because they came out of the gates this first game on fire. You had time to change your pick, and you're like, fuck it. I'm keeping the Bills.
I like it. And just for the record, to add on to that point, it's currently the third quarter of game 1, and it's 10-10. But the Bills, like Ryan said, they were burning hot when he was probably writing these takes together at some point before the pod, and he held strong.
Okay, I got my cold pick. So I had a couple. I had the Dolphins on my list, but this is a surprise pick. I'm going with the Bucs being 1-5. Everybody loves the Bucs. They got one of the highest win over unders. Everybody on TV is telling me about Tom Brady. Tom Brady looks like my uncle who got lost outside of his house lately. His hair's crazy. He looks disheveled. The offensive line is trash. I don't care how fast the guy throws the ball. They're hoping Godwin comes back in time. Mike Evans is nursing an injury so long he should have a nursing degree. I mean, that team is not going to be good. Leonard Fournette is trash. I don't care what people say. I mean, I am out on the Bucs so hard, and they're starting at Dallas, at New Orleans, home against Green Bay, home against Kansas City, and then they get an easy one at Atlanta. I think they pick that up, but at that point, the damage is going to be done. I just don't see how the Bucs have a great season this year. I'm on an island. I know I am, but I'll take them. On my watch list, and I don't have the balls to do it, I had the Chiefs at 2-5.
Ooh.
I got Arizona on my other cold.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be good.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at KC, at Raiders, Rams, at Panthers, Eagles. That's pretty tough first 5 games, and if you don't make it out of that at 3-2, you're looking at a long season because
tough division.
That was only one division game. So, I mean, I guess you still get 2 against Seattle. Nobody's expecting much out of Seattle. Let's just call that.
Well, here's the question: When's Kyler going to get hurt? Because he's hurt every year. So does he get hurt at game 2 or does he get hurt on game 13? Because that's going to change their season too.
I
don't know.
One more I dug up, and it has to do. It's in the same realm as Ryan's, and actually the same division. I don't believe in the Saints. I think we could very well see the Saints fall directly on their face. I think they could be a bottom 5 team in the NFL this year.
Wow.
I think they are very unproven. I just don't see Jameis as the guy that can somehow steer the ship, and I think the Dennis Allen hire is weak. And I'm a little mad that Bill Simmons is stepping on my take from a couple weeks ago, and he's taking this for himself. But generally, these guys, I don't believe in them. I don't. And if you look at the schedule, you can see a path to them being a bad team this year. They play a lot of good teams or middling teams at good times for them. Coming off of bad weeks, rolling off of bye weeks, middle of the season. There's a bunch of good teams they're going to have to come up against, and I think they could be the bottom of the league. Now, Ryan, I had a topic I discussed with you. I don't know if, Kevin, you got this one, but you might be able to throw a dart at the board here. Who do you think will be the worst team in the NFL, get the number 1 pick headed into next year?
Give me just a minute to contemplate here. Maybe talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, no, you're good. Ryan, I have my pick. If you want me to go first, I can jump.
Yeah, go for it.
So I looked at a handful of teams, and I was checking different schedules. And something just kept coming back to me. I was more of a gut feel than it was the schedule count. I'll be honest with you. It was when we had Chase on the podcast. We did a little schedule breakdown of one Atlanta Falcons team, and I see a path to where this team is the worst team in the NFL this year. They very well could go right off the edge of a cliff. We don't know what the quarterback play is going to be there at all. Their running back room is multiple guys led by Cordell Patterson, which last year seemed like a miracle. Let's just dust it up and try it again, Their leading receiver is a tight end. He's great, but what is this team? We really don't know. And they play a lot of good teams in packs this year. They come right out of the gate, and they're going to hit the Saints. Now, if I'm correct, they may win that game. I think this is a two bad teams playoff in the very first game of the season, but then they catch the Rams, they go Seahawks, Browns, they get Bucks, and then they get Niners, Bengals, Panthers, Chargers. That's the first half of their season. I think they are going to lose half of those games at least, and then the other half are toss-ups. 4-4 at best. At best. But I'm thinking they're 1-7. I just don't see it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. We can't say the Bucks are going to suck and the Saints are going to suck and
They're all
the
bad.
Falcons are going to suck. You've got Carolina at 17-0.
No, actually, there's just a bunch of ties. It's -1.
Yeah,
It's,
okay, that makes sense.
It's really rough, but the Panthers
so
are going
I
17-0, and everyone else ties.
I got two for you, and I don't know which one. If you put my feet to the fire, I would give me the Seahawks. They're in a division where they're not going to pick up very many easy wins, and that's going to be a tough road for them. I think home field might help them out, so I think my pick's going to be the Jets. Even if the Dolphins aren't as good as I think they're going to be, as everybody thinks they're going to be, I think they're going to perform under that. I don't know how the Jets – I think the Jets lose every game in their division against the Bills, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. That's 6 losses right off the rip. You don't get your starting quarterback that you want to build around until at least week 5 is what they're saying now. And he wasn't that great when he played.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Plus, their best offensive lineman was hurt to start preseason. Their backfield still seems to be in a flux on who's going to start and how they're going to roll that out. Yeah. And it's great. You got Sauce Gardner, but if he's got to defend 60 passes a game, it's not going to be that great. So I think the Jets are going to end up with that number 1 pick this year.
I like the call. I like the Seahawks call too. The Birds were on my list. It could be bad on both sides. Kevin, what do you got?
Well, I was mad I didn't jump in before him because the team I kept coming to first was Seattle. Again, I think they're a team that could go 0-6 in their division easily.
Yep.
They probably will. It's just what they can do potentially outside of it versus maybe the Jets and their schedule. I don't have the schedules in front of me right now, but another team that I go to is the Texans. I don't know if there's a single player on their team that jumps out at me, which doesn't always mean non-success, but normally means you're not very good. If there's nobody on your team that I can think of off the top of my head right now.
This is a Damian Pierce fan pod. We are fans, okay. Damian. You can come on the pod anytime. We knew your name. Kevin didn't. Don't worry. We're not inviting him back. No, I'm just kidding.
No, just that,
Damian, come on anytime.
Yeah, obviously he's the one that's been mentioned because somebody's going to have to do something, right?
So yeah, for real. That's how bad it's gotten.
Yeah, I didn't go with the Texans just because I don't believe in the Titans. I think they're going to be trash. And then you've got the Jaguars. So I think they're going to pick a couple games up there. And that's why I didn't pick the Bears either. I think they're going to get at least one against Detroit. I think they could surprise Minnesota or Green Bay maybe. So I don't know. There's a couple teams. There's a lot of really great teams this year. And I think there's a lot of teams that have their gaps. But I don't think there's anybody that's just flat out awful. I just don't.
I just like that you didn't even mention the ghost of Matt Ryan in Indy.
The disrespect. I have a call on the Indianapolis Colts where I believe that Matt Ryan will have a Matthew Stafford-esque year. I think he's going to go there and have a team around him, a line, a running back. He doesn't have to do a whole lot of everything. He just needs to do what he does well. He's an accurate passer, and it's something they've not had in a long time. He just has to manage the games. Now, will we see flaily Matt Ryan? Probably. Will we see less of it than we saw the last 2 or 3 years? Hopefully. And if you get that, you're going to have a better result than you did with old man Phillip back there, just P. Rivers throwing the ball around.
He's got a better back, but he has nothing close to what he had to throw to.
You got Michael Pittman. You got Pity City. Throw out the Gigantors and the tight ends, and I think you just play toss-up ball. But I think you lean on the line and Jonathan Taylor. I think they're going to lean heavy on the run, and Matt Ryan does not need to be the superhero he was in an MVP season, but he can be in a Super Bowl.
McKenzie with a little touchdown here. Oof, sneaking in the end zone.
Redemption.
Got to get the fancy update. Okay, I think. What, Colton? Did you see that for this week? Or do you have anything else you want to cover?
I did. It's a quick one. It was a little drama news in the Tom Brady front. Will stay in the NFL. So there was some rumors circulating that Tom Brady is no longer staying in the same home as his wife and family. And I had a couple questions that didn't really revolve around Brady himself and playing, but the story itself. So I wanted to see what you guys thought about this sort of news being brought to everyone's attention. I think it makes sense. It has to do with a star player and how he may play a game and what his thought process is, but is it too much?
I mean, he's a
celebrity.
He's more than just a football player. He's a celebrity. They put him in fashion things. His wife is a celebrity in those areas, and that's what sells magazines and whatnot. So he's in a situation where he's also, he's the quarterback, right? He's the, the face of the league still as long as he's in it, right? And you got something like that going on, it's coming out. You're just too big for that. That's kind of my opinion. Like, do I like that that's coming out? No.
That's weird.
Because there are certain matters that should be private, regardless of stature. But, I mean, in this day and age, especially with the information age, it just comes with the territory.
Yeah, this is my guideline is, does he put his personal business out there before this? And if so, then this is the bed you made. So you can't have a documentary, Tom vs. Time, with your personal life and everything involved, and then go do all these ESPN 30 for 30s about yourself. And then when the media wants to do your personal life, be like, no. That's not how it works, man. So, I mean, you can look at Derek Jeter. I know that was really before media took off. You can look at Peyton Manning, who is in the public eye a lot, but does not talk about his family or his personal life or any of that anywhere else. And the media seems to stay away from that. So I think that's my rule of thumb is if you are doing a lot of personal family matters out onto social media or on the media yourself, then you open that door. And I think media has always kind of respected that. I can't think of a time that they've gone after and talked about people's personal lives unless that door was opened. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think that Tom has definitely opened the door before. I also think that it may be played up from his camp because that kind of is the pushback I saw online. Is like, this is his personal life, stay away from it, right? But I think there could be some like TB12 big brain stuff going on here too, where it's like, we're going to separate for the season. I'm on a work trip, Giselle understands. We get to play it up as a headline, and he gets to be part of the team for the whole year because he's never done this before. That's definitely what's happening.
Well, I mean, Tom's the perfect example. What was it, 2 or 3 years ago when his mom was suffering through cancer and doing treatments? He didn't talk about it. The media knew what was going on, but they didn't report on it until at the end, at the Super Bowl and after the Super Bowl when he made the announcement of what was going on. Then the stories all came out. Yep. So I think that's kind of like the rule of thumb that a lot of the media people take is that because, I mean, they all have stories on all these major athletes that they will not write because it's not part of the sports. But if the door's open, then they go after it.
Right. I feel that 100%. So anything else you want to do or you want to wrap her up, Ryan?
You know I want to chat about fantasy. If
It's a
somebody wants to
fantasy.
talk it,
Let's
I'll
go.
listen. I'll give it a chat. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you want to talk about.
I thought we were not just going for team cold and hot start, but giving a few players for fantasy that were our bold
I
predictions.
saw those on your list. Go for it. Yeah, this will roll into fantasy. So who do you got?
Love it.
All right. Well, again, wrote this before everything was going on, but number one on my list for a hot start was Gabe Davis. What I looked at was some of the matchups to begin with. Obviously, Diggs has Ramsey on him tonight, so that was going to highlight him out the gate. He was going to get more opportunities. He's showing out so far. You guys obviously don't like it, but I have Mike Evans on my list because there's quite a few games that I see either soft defenses or potentially high-scoring games, and he's going to be that guy that's going to get a ton of targets. And I'm big on CMC. So I think he's finally healthy. I heard, he consulted with Marshall Faulk about longevity and taking care of his body. And if that's the case and he does stay healthy, I mean, we all know what he can do. We see what he can do. So those are my
I don't know why everybody acts like Christian McCaffrey is Mr. Glass. Like, the dude got hurt last year, but before his injuries, the last 18 months, he was like a rock star. The dude didn't even miss practice before. So I think it's overplayed a little bit. Plus, I think one of his hamstring injuries, when I was looking back, he was like high-stepping and doing all these crazy moves in the open field and hurt himself. So that's just a fluke injury to me. So I like those picks for sure. Colton, you got anybody that kind of hops out?
I like
10 games in 2 years, people think you got injury problems.
Yeah, it stacks up. Especially in the recent times, if you get injured for a longer amount of time, you're not expected to come back to the same 100% you were before, even if that was superhero-esque. I really like the Gabe Davis pick. That's one on my list. I actually, personally, we had talked about a little trade me and Ryan were a part of with Stephon Diggs moving off of a team that I had. But part of that was me believing that Gabe Davis could position himself as a 1A. A real, by mid-season, could try and take the torch a little bit from a Stephon Diggs. Not to say that they both won't be very, very productive. That's part of it. So I really like that Gabe Davis pick. I'm also looking at a surprising one. A lot of people are not so high on this running back this year, but I like David Montgomery. I think that the Bears are going to be bad, and I think they're going to need to be really playing a lot of offense here. There's going to be points to be had on that team, and there's not a lot of people to do the scoring. So there's going to be yards. There's going to be points. I see it more of a DeAndre Swift-esque role where he was very, very productive on a shitty team. And I think that he could really be a fantasy sleeper in a lot of ways. Nobody's saying his name, and he's not getting any respect, but I think he'll be a back-end RB1.
I think that line is the question mark. They were so bad last year, and his value was only in those big runs. So I think people need to see that line has improved, and if it has, and he can sustain, because he's not going to get a lot of touches when they're down 28-0. So if that line hasn't improved and their offense can't get much going, then, I mean, that obviously is the only hurdle for him. When he has had time and touches, he's shown it over the last 3 years. I would say, yeah, he's one of those guys that, like, I don't want to touch, and then I keep watching him go off week after week. So I don't hate it. I just am very skeptical of that Chicago line and what the team's going to be able to do.
Let me be clear. I have no shares of David Montgomery. I also don't truly want to touch him. I just think that the shade and the lack of his name being brought up is just a little outside of where he's actually going to land. I think he's going to land much higher than he's being projected at the moment.
I would say one thing that helps you on that is a lot of people are potentially marking Justin Fields as breaking out a bit this year. How's he going to break out if they don't have a running game?
Exactly.
So
I also have Justin Fields breaking out a little bit this year. This offense is going to run a little bit more than just being an absolute trash team. I don't think they'll win games, but I don't think they're going to just be turds on the field. It's very
Yeah,
like
they're
Houston with Brandon Cooks able to fly off. They had some movement there, some good offensive pieces. Gosh, fighting
Brandon
for
Cooks.
terrible teams. Yeah.
Brandon Cooks is a good name to bring up because he's the guy that never really he doesn't move the needle, but I just saw it pop across that he's 7 years and he's had 6 over 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Like
Every
you
team he's
just
been
you
on.
don't
Unlike 5 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, on
yeah
5 different teams.
you don't target him, but he produces year over year.
Consistent.
Did you give your Hawkeyes?
I don't know if I have somebody that's hot. I mean, I think Dalvin Cook's going to have a better year than people think. Fantasy wise, I know he's a first round pick, and that's easy to say, but I think they're going to run the ball more than people think, even though it's a pass happy offense. And I think with the offense being better, there's going to be more touchdown opportunities for Cook. So I could see him having a really good year. He's missed multiple games the last few years too because of the injury. So I think he kind of puts it together, stays healthy, and goes after one this year. So I like him. I don't know, Cold. I hate some of the running backs. I hate Derrick Henry. I just don't see it. I know he's going to come out and run for fucking 3,000 yards this year probably, but I just don't like him. I don't like Najee Harris. I think that's a bad team with a bad line. I don't like him at all.
And I don't
Najee's
like
on-
Leonard Fournette. Yeah, I don't like Leonard Fournette. Get me off all those big backs. I don't want any
Fournette-
piece of those people.
Fournette's a team based on what I heard from you though. You don't like anybody with
And I hate him.
Let me think about Tampa Bay. No, I just don't like anybody. I don't like anybody on that team.
Well, and you were saying Dalvin. Dalvin, even if it's a pass happy offense, he's a 3-down back, right? He's going to be able to catch. You get him in the open field, you're talking, a lot of benefit there. I'd pick CMC. So let's not talk about first round pick. Can't use them because a lot of people have a lot of things that they don't like, and normally their injuries. Dalvin's got that. I mean, that's why for years I handcuffed Madison because anytime he was out, Madison would score 20 points. Easy. Like, why does this guy not get more touches? I don't get it.
Right. They definitely used him. I have my hot wide receiver that was on my list is it's actually Cortland Sutton. I think that Cortland Sutton's going to have a big year if Russ has a big year. Now, we've talked about how this Broncos team might be a little overhyped as far as we don't know what they are. You got to see it to believe it sort of thing. But I'm riding with Cortland Sutton. Let's ride. I'm going to go with Cortland Sutton being a major player in fantasy football. I mean, Russell Wilson has supported a top 10 wide receiver in many years of his career. If you read the camp reports, Sutton is the guy that's getting it over Judy, and Sutton's the guy we've seen produce over Judy's careers, at least. They've not been on the field together a ton, but Sutton's the guy we've seen do it before. I think we see him do it again.
Don't hate that. My cold wide receiver is Debo.
Oof.
I mean, everybody thinks that San Fran is down on Trey, so I mean, if I'm a team playing San Francisco, I'm loading the box. So a lot of Debo's value came from his running. Obviously, he's great as a wide receiver, but running, he punched in a lot. And I don't see anybody in the league that plays as hard as him on offense. Just, I don't know. If you watch him on tape, guy plays hard on every play. I'll see some defenders that I would agree, but I got him on a cold start. Just Trey Lance, I see having kind of a jittery start, and with that, boxes are going to be loaded, and it's going to be hard for them to get going.
Yeah, a lot of his routes, too, were these crossing routes over the middle, timing routes. That's not Trey Lance's bread and butter, right? His is that deep ball and getting outside of the pocket. So that's not going to help Debo. And you read the camp reports that Ayuk had a really great camp. Well, that's what Ayuk's good at, right? He's good at these deep posts, these fly routes, working off of a broken pocket. So I agree. I don't see Debo, and Debo does play hard, and he might be playing too hard. He might get hurt again this year, right? I mean, he was very lucky to have all those touches in the middle of the field, in crowded, crossing the middle and running the ball. The human body's not made to be hit like that, especially when you're a wide receiver. So I don't know how he stands up this year. I think I sold all my shares of Debo in every league I'm in, so I feel great about it. So thank you, Debo. But no, thank you.
Well, and to the point I made about San Fran and loading the boxes, I had Najee on my cold list as well.
Yeah.
If you're playing Pittsburgh, the one thing you got to do is stop Najee and then tell him, figure it out. You're gonna let Mitch Trubisky or small hands beat you, or Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think either one of those guys check it down to Najee as much as Ben did, right? So you're going to cut a lot of receptions off of his total. And I think he had the most, he was contacted the most behind the line of scrimmage last year more than any other running back. And I don't think the line got better.
No. That's a rough one. You got any other ones in there, Ryan? Throw another one out there for us.
I mean, I don't want to just keep giving all my hot takes away so you guys eat up the waiver wire on me.
You tell me there's somebody on your hot take that you haven't picked up yet.
Yeah. I mean, in Colton's league, Darrell Henderson's sitting on the waiver wire. I was waiting to do a 2-for-1 trade, and nobody in the league actually picks up their trade bait. So I was trying to do a 2-for-1 and pick up Henderson off the waiver wire, but I can't do that. I like Palmer. I think he is somebody that may not get a ton of touches. The third wide receiver for the Chargers, but there's potential there that he could really be good. And I think if Keenan Allen or Mike Williams go down with injury, which is not unlikely, that something happens to an older receiver and somebody that's injury prone, I think he could step into either one of those spots and become a wide receiver 1 or 2 in one of the best offenses. So give me all the Josh Palmer that's out there.
Nice. I like that. I think that's an interesting take. We're at that part of the year. We're going to be on a pod next week talking about whatever major crazy thing happened this Sunday, and now there's some random guy getting traded or something else happening because pieces move constantly in the NFL. It's unpredictable. That's part of why we like it. Kevin, do you have any other takes?
Don't think I'm not sending Henderson to every single person in the league after this game.
I'm
trading him out to everybody.
If you made it to this point, congratulations. We love you. Thank you for listening to 50-some minutes of us talking. But do not take him. Don't take the bait.
No, I mean, based on what I saw, Henderson's the number 1 in LA.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He came out drive 1, drive 2.
He did.
I mean, Akers was supposed to be the guy. I haven't seen it. So I know you saying you're trying to build the value. I think you're trying to downplay it now that you still want him. So we'll go with that.
What a good friend Kevin is. Really helping Ryan sell this. I mean, if we're basing it off of the first 2 drives of week 1 of an NFL season, trade him all in for CMC. I think at this point, he's the best running back we've seen.
Hands down.
Hands down. Best one we've seen.
I didn't say he was the best one in the game so far. I'm just saying he was the feature back in L.A., who we expect to have a Sean McVay offense.
Oh, to that point, Devin Singletary might be MVP. Kevin, thank you for coming on, man. It was nice getting to chat with you for a little bit here. We always have a good time bringing on friends and being able to talk a little sports. And come back whenever you want, dude. It was a good time.
Yeah.
Let me know when you want me, and I'll figure out if the wife will let me.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, wrap her up,
Colton,
Ryan.
Colton, we'll hook up later this week or early next week. We're going to talk a little bit about the Guardians. We're going to catch up on them, see where they're at. And then I have a crazy idea on how to build an NFL contender. So I want to walk through that and how to build an NFL team. So you got anything for us before we sign off?
No, man. It's always good. Do it, Kevin. Throw it at us.
Yeah, go.
The crazy thing that I did for this weekend is opening NFL weekend. I signed me and the family up to go to the Twins Guardians game here in the Twin Cities Sunday at 1:10.
Let's go. We need all the fans we can get out there.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Sounds good, man. Thank you again for
week 1. Big trade-off.
Oh, that's a rough one. I just can't even imagine. I have actually, to that point, before we go, I've done a similar thing. I'm going to be at a 2-year-old's birthday party for my girlfriend's family, and I am bringing a full setup to stream every NFL game. I called her, brother, we're doing the thing. So we're going to watch some NFL game. Hopefully you bring your iPad and drop that thing between your feet or something. I bet they have Wi-Fi at the field. Best of luck to you.
All right. Well,
All right, guys.
appreciate you guys having me.
Have a good evening. Thank you for listening, everybody. This has been another episode of Did You See That? The sports podcast where we just kind of chat about everything. We'll see you again soon. Bye.
See ya.